Stop everything you're doing. Take a deep breath now. You just wasted one of the 23,000 opportunities you have today to reprogram your reality. What if I told you that every breath is a direct command to the universe? There's a study from the HeartMath Institute that explains exactly why your personal development efforts have failed up until now. But before I reveal that to you, I need you to understand something shocking about what happens with every inhalation. Because when you discover what's really happening, you'll never breathe the same way again. Here's what's fascinating. You take 23,000 breaths per day. 99.9% of them are completely unconscious. You're breathing in traffic, breathing at work, breathing at 3 a.m. replaying that conversation. But there's something even more profound happening that 99% of people never discover. Your breathing is literally encoding information into the quantum field. Like writing on the fabric of reality with every inhalation. When you breathe from anxiety, you're literally inscribing anxiety into the energetic field around you. When you breathe from peace, you're inscribing peace. The quantum field doesn't make distinctions. It simply responds to the information you're encoding through your breathing pattern. Dr. Fritz Albert Popp's research on biophotons proves it. Every cell emits light. Coherent light when you're in harmony, chaotic light when you're in disharmony. You're literally painting with light at every moment of your existence. The ancient masters guarded a sacred secret. They could regenerate organs, reverse aging, transcend physical limitations. It wasn't magic. It was science that you don't know yet. They called it weaving light into flesh, and it wasn't a metaphor. This is why you can repeat affirmations until you're hoarse and nothing changes. This is why your vision boards become wall decorations, because you're trying to convince the universe with words while your breathing is screaming the opposite. But when you awaken to the fact that every breathing cycle is transmitting a frequency that either magnetizes your ideal reality or violently repels it, everything changes. You stop begging life and start commanding it. I'm going to teach you the sacred observer breathing protocol, 4 portals that transform you from cosmic beggar to sovereign of your existence. And there's more. There's a quantum pause technique that rewrites your reality in 0.3 seconds, less time than it takes you to blink. Imagine becoming the eye of the hurricane. While chaos spins around you, you remain in the unshakable center, and reality bends to your presence. At this exact moment, you're wasting 23,000 opportunities to reprogram your existence. Every automatic breath is a vote for your past. Every conscious breath is a vote for your future. Your first action on this planet wasn't to think. It was to breathe. And maybe it's time to do it consciously. Your first act on Earth wasn't to think, speak, or even cry. It was to breathe. And that's no coincidence. Your consciousness entered this dimension through the elegant simplicity of rhythmic breathing, not through mental complexity. In that moment, you possessed knowledge that modern life made you forget. Somewhere in your development, you learned to breathe like a robot instead of the conscious being you are. You switched from the breathing of creation to the breathing of survival. Do this with me. Become aware of your breathing pattern right now. Where does it come from? I bet it's fast, shallow, trapped in your chest. That's automated breathing. It keeps your body functioning but leaves your spirit undernourished. The ancient guardians of wisdom knew something our world forgot. From Sanskrit prana to Hebrew ruach, entire civilizations recognized breathing as much more than biological necessity. They knew it was the sacred connector between the visible and invisible. In Egyptian mystery schools, each breath could activate different chambers of consciousness. Ancient yogis discovered that breathing consciously didn't just change their internal experience, it changed the structure of reality around them, Every emotion you've ever felt, every choice you made had a specific breathing rhythm. Anxiety? Fast, shallow breathing. Peace? Deep, slow breathing. Your breathing doesn't just reflect your condition, it creates your condition. What if I tell you that you can use this to reprogram your reality? You believe you control your thoughts, but you're actually imprisoned by them. Most humans spend their entire existence believing they are their mental commentary. You wake up each morning and immediately the internal dialogue begins. What needs to be accomplished today? I'm running late. I wonder about their reaction to yesterday's conversation. You assume this mental voice represents your identity. But what if that assumption is completely wrong? Let's do an experiment now. Notice your breathing pattern. This time, don't try to modify it. Simply observe. Feel the air flowing through your nostrils, expanding your lungs, then releasing gently. While this occurs, something remarkable is happening. You're becoming the witness of your breathing instead of merely the one who breathes. Now, while observing your breathing, notice your mind's activity. It might be commenting, "This seems useless," or "I'm doing this wrong." Here's the profound revelation. If you can perceive these thoughts, if you can observe their arising and dissolution, then you cannot be these thoughts. You are the consciousness observing them. It's like being in a room watching TV. You can see the program, but you are not the program. You are the one watching. This marks the emergence of the observer, the aspect of you that exists beyond the continuous flow of mental chatter. Imagine sitting beside a flowing river. Your thoughts represent the water passing by. Sometimes the current flows smoothly, sometimes it runs turbulently. But you, your authentic self, remain seated on the riverbank, watching everything pass. You are not the river. You are the consciousness that perceives the river. Ancient traditions use the metaphor of sky and clouds. Your thoughts are like clouds drifting through your consciousness. Some clouds appear dark and stormy, worry, fear, uncertainty. Others seem light and fluffy, joy, enthusiasm, hope. But observe, the sky itself remains undisturbed by any clouds. It stays constant, spacious, unchanged regardless of clear or stormy weather. This observing consciousness represents your authentic nature. The part of you unchanged since childhood. The part that will remain unchanged until your final breath. It's the witness, the consciousness, the silent presence that has observed your entire life experience unfold. The observer isn't just passively watching your thoughts and emotions. It's actually the fundamental creative force behind your reality. All major spiritual traditions have pointed to this truth through different terminologies. Hindus called it Sakshi, the witness consciousness. Buddhists spoke of Buddha nature, the unchanging consciousness. Christian mystics referred to the inner Christ consciousness. All were indicating the same or some fundamental recognition. You are not your temporary and transitory experiences. You are the eternal consciousness that experiences them. When you truly understand and integrate this, everything transforms about how you approach life's challenges. Instead of asking, "How can I fix this problem?" you naturally begin asking, "What is this experience trying to teach me?" Instead of automatically resisting difficult emotions, you become genuinely curious about them. Instead of obsessively trying to control outcomes, you become fascinated by the creative intelligence that orchestrates your experiences. This progressive shift from unconscious participant to conscious observer to conscious creator is what ancient alchemists called the great work. They weren't literally trying to transform lead into gold in some physical laboratory. They were symbolically transforming the lead of unconscious reactivity into the gold of conscious response. The laboratory was their own consciousness and breathing was their primary tool of transformation. Modern neuroscience is now scientifically validating what these ancient traditions always knew intuitively. Have you now realized the cost of each unconscious breath? The wasted potential? The reality you're not creating? If the idea of letting your consciousness be the laboratory and breathing be the tool resonates deeply with you, but you're wondering, how do I start? Or how do I truly master this ? Don't waste another moment. I've condensed the knowledge, methods, and precise practices for you to stop merely existing and start consciously creating into exclusive and unlimited material. Get your The Vibrational Awakening, the Quantum Code of Manifestation from Quantum Labs, the definitive codex for vibrational intelligence, frequency command, and coherent manifestation with the universal field. Click now on the link in the first pinned comment and start aligning every choice with your unlimited potential. When you observe your thoughts without critical judgment, you actually modify the neural pathways in your brain. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research demonstrates that just 7 minutes of conscious observation can begin rewiring neural patterns established for decades. Your brain literally begins creating new neural networks that support the conscious observer instead of the automatic reactor. But the observer state isn't limited to just personal transformation. It's fundamentally about remembering your role as a conscious participant in the universe's creative process. When you're completely identified with your thoughts and emotions, you're like an actor who has completely forgotten they're in a play, totally lost in the drama. But when you awaken to observing consciousness, you remember that you're not just the actor. You're simultaneously the director, the writer, and the audience. This is precisely why conscious breathing is so extraordinarily powerful. Every breath taken from the observer's state is like sending a clear and coherent signal to the universe. I remember who I am. I'm ready to consciously participate in this creative dance. The universe responds to this signal by beginning to organize circumstances that align with your newfound clarity and coherence. Your ego mind, that voice of endless commentary, wants you to believe it's in total control. It constructs elaborate narratives about your identity, your obligations, others' opinions of you. It exists in constant commentary about past events and anxiety about future possibilities. But the observer exists exclusively in this present moment, in the eternal now where genuine creative power resides. When you begin to progressively identify more with the observer and less with mental chatter, something profoundly transformative happens. You stop being automatically reactive and become consciously responsive. Instead of being completely overwhelmed by every emotion or thought, you can observe their arising, recognize them clearly, and consciously choose your response. This is exactly where authentic freedom begins to manifest. Breathing becomes your reliable anchor to this observing consciousness. Every time you return your attention to your breath, you're returning home to your true self. You're consciously stepping away from the drama of thoughts into the peace of pure consciousness. This completely transcends abstract spiritual philosophy. This is quantum mechanics applied in practice. The observer effect in quantum physics scientifically demonstrates that conscious observation literally transforms reality. When you become the conscious observer of your inner world, you gain real power to influence and shape your outer world. Have you ever felt time stop completely? Maybe in a moment of extreme danger or in a hug that seemed eternal? Hidden in the space between your breaths exists a 0.3-second window where you can literally rewire your reality. But 99% of people never discover how to access it. Those moments when time slowed down weren't coincidence. They were glimpses of what's possible when you slip into the space between thoughts, between heartbeats, between breaths. In that suspended instant, you touched something timeless. You found the quantum gap. Do this with me. Breathe, but this time pay attention not just to the inhalation and exhalation, but to what happens between them. Do you feel it? There's an instant, brief but profound, where everything pauses. Your lungs are full, but you haven't started exhaling yet. Then, at the end of the exhale, another pause before the next inhalation. These aren't empty spaces. They're sacred portals. In the mystery schools of the Nile, students learn to enter these gaps with consciousness. They called it resting in the silence of Ra, where the sun god paused between breaths of creation. These weren't just breathing practices. It was training to access the field of infinite potential. The Egyptians understood what quantum physics now proves. In the space between one state and another, anything can emerge. It's like the pause between musical notes. Without silence, there's no rhythm, no beauty, just noise. Your breathing creates this sacred rhythm in your life, and in the quantum gap, something extraordinary happens. Your mental commentary disappears. The stream of I should, I need, goes quiet. In that silence, pure intention can crystallize. Not desperate ego desire, but clear soul knowing. Here, your desires stop being desires and become instructions to the field. Think of it as the womb of creation. Like a child in the mother's womb, your dreams need this sacred darkness to take form. Mystics called it the eye of the needle, the narrow opening where infinite possibilities pass through to become reality. Most people run past these moments. They breathe fast, think constantly, always moving to the next thing. But when you learn to rest in the gap, when you become comfortable in the space between what was and what will be, you discover that this is where all true power lives. It's not about holding your breath or forcing anything. It's about presence with the natural rhythm of your being. In that presence, you touch where intention meets infinite possibility. In the quantum gap, you don't try to control the field. You commune with it. This deeper awakening I mentioned isn't discovered by reaching higher or thinking more sophisticated thoughts. It's found by traveling inward, consciously descending from the mental realm into the sacred territory of your physical form. Just as ancient civilizations built magnificent temples to house the divine, you too must build an inner sanctuary not with stone and mortar, but with breath and consciousness. Consider the great temples of the world, the pyramids of Egypt, the cathedrals of Europe, the sacred spaces where people have gathered for millennia to touch something greater than themselves. These weren't built randomly. Every pillar was positioned with specific intention. Every chamber was designed to channel and amplify divine energy. Your body is fundamentally identical. It's already a natural temple, but most of us never learned to inhabit it consciously. Ancient Egyptians understood this deeply. They mapped the human body as a living temple with energy centers corresponding to different chambers of consciousness. They knew that breath was the master key unlocking each room, revealing not just the divine within, but also the stories, traumas, and patterns stored in bodily wisdom. If this understanding is resonating with you, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps this frequency reach others who are ready for this transformation. As you begin breathing more consciously, you might notice something intriguing happening. Certain areas of your body might feel tense, contracted, or somehow inaccessible. Your shoulders might carry the weight of responsibilities you've been carrying for years. Your chest might feel armored, protecting a heart that learned to close after experiences of betrayal. Your stomach might hold knots of anxiety about the future. Your throat might feel restricted from words you never allowed yourself to express. I'm curious, as you're exploring this conscious breathing now, what are you noticing in your body? Share in the comments what sensations or insights are arising for you. These aren't merely random physical sensations. They're deeply biographical. Your body has systematically recorded your life, storing the emotional residue of every significant experience in your tissues. That tension in your chest might be holding grief you never fully processed. The shoulder tension could be carrying emotional burdens that were never yours to carry originally. But here's the truly beautiful aspect of conscious breathing. It doesn't just reveal these stored patterns, it actively helps dissolve them. Every conscious breath is like gentle renovation work on your inner temple, systematically clearing old debris, opening blocked pathways, restoring the natural flow of energy that wants to move through you. What happens during this clearing process is truly remarkable. As you breathe consciously into areas of tension or holding, you're not just releasing physical knots. You're actually liberating trapped memories, unprocessed emotions, and even inherited patterns that have been stored in your cellular matrix. Your DNA itself carries information from your ancestors, including their unresolved traumas, fears, and limitations. Conscious breathing can actually help clear these inherited patterns, freeing you from cycles that may have been repeating in your family for generations. Scientists are now discovering that trauma creates specific breathing patterns that are transmitted through epigenetic inheritance. If your grandmother experienced deep fear and never fully processed it, that fear pattern, including its corresponding breathing signature, can manifest in your nervous system even if you never experienced that specific trauma yourself. This is precisely why some people have anxiety about situations they've never actually encountered directly. But now I'm going to tell you the truth that will change everything. Just as these patterns can be inherited, they can also be transformed. And when you breathe consistently from coherent states, you're not just healing your own nervous system, you're healing the entire ancestral lineage. Listen to this. Your conscious breathing sends healing frequencies backward in time to your ancestors, and forward in time to future generations. You become a healing bridge through time itself. Now imagine this with me. Slowly descending through the floors of your inner temple with each breath. When you breathe into your chest, you're visiting the heart chamber, center of love and emotional wisdom. When you move the breath to your belly, you enter the chamber of power and intuition, where your deepest knowing lives. And with each breath, you're not just observing these spaces, you're purifying, blessing, reclaiming them. Think of the Egyptians. They built pyramids aligned with celestial energies, structures that channeled cosmic forces to Earth. Through conscious breathing, you do the same with your body. You align your inner architecture with higher frequencies of love, peace, and creative power. And this isn't about perfecting your body or forcing changes, it's about learning to inhabit it completely, honoring the intelligence that has always guided you, and clearing the blockages that have prevented your full expression. Once your inner temple is built, something remarkable begins happening with everything around you. The universe begins responding to your new frequency. People, opportunities, synchronicities magnetize to you. You stop chasing life, and life begins chasing you. Because now you're no longer an energetic beggar. You're a transmitter of divine frequencies. And I'm going to show you exactly how this works in practice. Scientific research has established that your breathing creates a measurable electromagnetic field extending 8 feet from your body. This means you're unconsciously influencing everyone around you at this very moment. This influence around you isn't just poetic metaphor. It's measurable and verifiable science. Research conducted by the HeartMath Institute clearly demonstrates that your heart generates an electromagnetic field extending significantly beyond your physical body. This field changes dramatically based specifically on your breathing pattern. When your breathing is chaotic, shallow, or stressed, your field automatically transmits that chaos to everyone within your range. But when your breathing becomes coherent, deep, and intentional, Your field transforms into a source of harmony that others can actually feel physically. Think of your breathing field as the surface of a perfectly calm lake. When you breathe from anxiety or racing thoughts, you're like someone frantically splashing in the water, creating waves and ripples that disturb everything around. But when you breathe from that peaceful center we've been systematically cultivating, you become like the mountain, perfectly reflected in the calm lake surface. Quiet, grounded, and magnetically peaceful. Have you ever experienced walking into a room and immediately feeling agitated or calm without anyone having spoken a word? Have you ever noticed how certain people seem to naturally carry peace wherever they go, while others seem to inevitably bring chaos? This isn't imagination or subjective perception. It's the breathing field in direct action. We're constantly transmitting our internal state through the specific rhythm and quality of our breathing. Other people are receiving these energetic signals whether they consciously realize it or not. Children are especially sensitive to these energetic fields. They haven't yet learned to override their natural intuition, so they respond immediately to the energy we're transmitting. When a parent breathes with stress and anxiety, children often become restless or clingy without logically understanding why. But when that same parent takes a few conscious breaths and settles into their energetic center, the child often naturally calms as if by magic. This field effect systematically extends to every interaction you have. When you breathe consciously before difficult conversations, you're not just preparing yourself mentally. You're creating an energetic container that can hold whatever needs to emerge. When you enter your workplace centered in your breathing, you're subtly influencing the entire atmosphere, making it significantly easier for creativity and collaboration to flow naturally. But there's an even deeper layer to this field effect that most people never discover. Your breathing field doesn't just influence the people around you. It influences the very fabric of space-time. This isn't mystical speculation or wishful thinking. It's cutting-edge physics based on scientific research. The work of scientists like Nassim Haramein demonstrates that consciousness and space-time are intimately connected at the fundamental quantum level. When you breathe from a coherent state, you're actually creating what physicists call torsion fields, spiral energy patterns that can influence the structure of reality itself. These fields can affect quantum probability distributions, making certain outcomes more likely while making others less likely. This is precisely why people who meditate regularly often report increased synchronicities and seemingly miraculous coincidences. Think carefully about the profound implications of this. Your breathing isn't just affecting your personal health or your momentary mood. It's literally participating in the creation of your reality at the most fundamental level. Every coherent breath you take is like casting a conscious vote for the kind of reality you want to experience. Every unconscious breath is like an automatic vote for more of the same unconscious patterns. Tibetan masters understood this deeply. They developed elaborate breathing practices called lung ta, which literally means wind horse. They knew that conscious breathing could ride the winds of karma, actually changing the trajectory of seemingly destined events. What seemed like fixed and unchangeable fate could be transformed through the power of conscious breathing. Modern research is beginning to scientifically validate these ancient insights. Studies conducted at the Global Consciousness Project demonstrate that when large groups of people meditate simultaneously, random number generators around the world begin producing significantly less random patterns. The coherent field states, generated by conscious breathing, literally organize chaos into order, not just in human consciousness, but in the physical world itself. This is precisely why environmental healing through consciousness isn't just possible, it's inevitable. When enough people learn to breathe consistently from coherent states, we'll begin observing spontaneous healing in ecosystems, unexpected resolutions to seemingly intractable conflicts, and breakthrough solutions emerging from the collective field of human consciousness. You're not just learning a personal development practice, you're becoming an active part of the solution to humanity's greatest challenges. Every breath you take from full consciousness directly contributes to the healing of our species and our planet. This is the true meaning of conscious service, not just helping individuals in isolation, but participating in the elevation of collective consciousness itself. The truly beautiful aspect of understanding your breathing field is recognizing how deeply connected we all really are. You're not just an isolated individual trying to improve your own life. You're an integral part of a vast web of consciousness. Every breath you take with awareness contributes to the overall field of peace and possibility on this planet. But this influence isn't something you need to consciously think about or actively manage. It happens naturally when you focus on aligning your own inner temple. The field responds to genuine authenticity, not artificial performance. When you breathe from a genuine place of presence and peace, that genuineness radiates outward without any conscious effort on your part. This is precisely why ancient teachings often spoke of the awakened person as someone who serves simply by being. They understood that consciousness itself is contagious, that peace is magnetic, and that one person breathing from their true center can change the energy of an entire room. You've traveled far without leaving your position, not through territories, but through layers of yourself, through rhythm, silence, observation. The most accomplished people in history mastered something you were never taught: how to access infinite power through absolute stillness. By traveling through your own layers, you've discovered something the world doesn't want you to know. The most powerful action is often complete non-action. We inhabit a culture that worships activity, telling us that more effort equals greater results, keeping us constantly busy, constantly struggling, constantly pushing toward the next goal. But the field, the quantum field responding to your consciousness, operates by entirely different principles. The field doesn't respond to the intensity of your effort. It responds to the quality of your alignment. It doesn't care about your to-do lists or 5-year plans. It cares about your frequency, your coherence, your state of being. The most coherent state of all is stillness. Not the stillness of exhaustion or surrender, but the dynamic stillness of a mountain. Consider a mountain for a moment. It appears completely still, but it's tremendously powerful. It doesn't fight against storms. It allows them to pass. It doesn't chase sunsets. It simply receives light. Rivers flow around it. Seasons change over it. Yet it remains centered in its own presence. This is the kind of stillness that moves worlds. When you learn to breathe in this mountain-like stillness, something extraordinary happens. Reality begins reorganizing itself around you instead of against you. Opportunities you could never have forced begin appearing naturally. People who can assist you seem to cross your path at precisely the right moment. Solutions to problems you've been struggling with suddenly become obvious. This isn't magic, it's physics. When you're in a state of stillness and coherence, you're no longer transmitting the chaotic signals of desperation, control, or struggle. Instead, you're emanating the clear frequency of trust, receptivity, and alignment. The field responds to this clarity by organizing circumstances to match your state. Consider the eye of a hurricane. Around it, winds roar at hundreds of miles per hour. Destruction and chaos spin in every direction. But at the very center, there's perfect calm, perfect stillness. From that center, the entire storm system is organized. This is the kind of stillness you can cultivate within yourself. Not the stillness of someone who has given up, but the stillness of someone who has learned to be the organizing principle of their own life. The difference between control and alignment becomes crystal clear in this stillness. Control tries to manipulate external circumstances to match internal desires. Alignment allows internal coherence to magnetize external harmony. Control is exhausting because you're fighting against the natural flow of life. Alignment is effortless because you're cooperating with it. When you breathe consciously, when you rest in the quantum gap, when you inhabit your inner temple completely, you're not trying to make things happen. You're allowing things to happen through you. You become a clear channel for the universe's intelligence to express itself in your life. Tell me in the comments what old pattern or way of being you're ready to release through this practice. What transformation are you calling into your life? It's important to understand that this doesn't mean becoming passive or lazy. True stillness is incredibly alive, incredibly aware. It's the stillness of a master archer just before releasing the arrow, completely focused, completely present, completely ready for whatever emerges from this place of centeredness. Your actions become naturally effortless and incredibly effective because they're arising from alignment instead of forced effort. But here's what happens when you truly embody this stillness. You begin accessing what can be called the zero-point field of possibility. This is a state where all potential futures exist simultaneously, waiting for consciousness to collapse them into reality. In this field, there are no limitations, no scarcity, no impossibilities, just infinite creative potential. The ancient Vedic texts called this state Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. In Turiya, you're not simply experiencing reality. You're actively participating in its creation. Time becomes fluid. Space becomes malleable. And what you once thought were fixed laws of physics reveal themselves to be more like guidelines that consciousness can transcend. When you breathe from this zero-point stillness, you're not trying to manifest specific outcomes. You're opening to the highest possibility that wants to emerge through you. Sometimes this looks like what you thought you wanted. Sometimes it looks completely different but serves your evolution in ways you never could have imagined. This is the fundamental difference between ego manifestation and soul manifestation. Ego manifestation tries to use consciousness to get what it thinks it needs. Soul manifestation allows consciousness to express what it knows you need for your highest evolution. The ego creates from limitation and scarcity. The soul creates from infinite abundance and possibility. The deepest insight is that you don't need to become anything or achieve anything to access this zero-point field. You already are it. You always have been it. The practices we've explored, conscious breathing, observer awareness, quantum gaps, aren't about creating something new. They're about remembering something eternal that has always been present. Every breath you've ever taken has been the universe breathing through you. Every thought you've ever had has been consciousness exploring itself through your unique perspective. Every emotion you've ever felt has been love expressing itself in infinite forms. You're not a separate being trying to connect with the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself as you. When this truth lands not just as an intellectual idea, but as a lived reality, your entire relationship with life transforms. You stop trying to make life work for you and begin allowing life to work through you. You stop seeing yourself as a wave trying to reach the ocean and recognize yourself as the ocean expressing itself as a wave. This recognition doesn't make you passive or detached. It makes you incredibly responsive and engaged. But now your engagement comes from love instead of need, from completeness instead of seeking, from service instead of self-interest. You become what the Taoists called the sage, someone whose actions arise spontaneously from perfect alignment with the natural flow of existence. Now I want you to take a moment and comment below with this phrase, "I choose to breathe as the observer." This isn't just a comment. It's an energetic declaration to the field that you're ready to enter this new way of being. It's a conscious interruption in the old cycle of unconscious breathing. As you've journeyed through this understanding, if this material is touching something deep within you, then I invite you to subscribe not just to this channel, but to this frequency. This is more than content consumption. You're joining a movement of conscious beings who understand that reality transformation begins from within. You're aligning with a community that knows consciousness creates reality. Now, as you prepare to leave this space, take this rhythm with you. You return not to who you were, but to who you always were beneath the noise. Breath brought you here, and now reveals the final truth. Stillness isn't the absence of power. Stillness is power itself. You've journeyed through the sacred nature of breathing, discovering that those 23,000 daily breaths aren't mere biological functions, but opportunities for conscious creation. You've awakened the inner observer, that eternal part of you that watches thoughts like clouds passing through an infinite sky. In the quantum gap between breaths, you found the sacred door where intention crystallizes into reality. Through building your inner temple, you learned that your body isn't just flesh and bone, but a living sanctuary, storing your life stories while offering pathways for healing and transformation. You discovered that your breathing creates an electromagnetic field extending 8 feet around you, making you a constant transmitter of peace or chaos to everyone you encounter. And finally, you touched the profound truth that the most powerful action is often no action. The dynamic stillness that allows reality to reorganize around your coherent presence instead of forcing it to bend to your will. There will be moments when the world pulls you away, when emotion clouds the lens, when thoughts spiral. In those moments, remember, the shortest path home is the breath. 3 conscious inhalations can bring you back to the observer. 1 gap between breaths can reconnect you to the quantum field. A single moment of stillness can restore your inner temple. This isn't about perfection, it's about returning. Every time you remember to breathe consciously, you're not just improving your day. You're reshaping your reality from the quantum level up. You're becoming a living demonstration that consciousness, not circumstance, is the true creative force. And here's something beautiful that happens as you continue this practice. You begin to notice that life begins to breathe you back. The boundaries between your personal breathing and the breathing of life itself begin to dissolve. You realize that every inhalation is life giving itself to you, and every exhalation is you giving yourself back to life. You're no longer breathing. Life is breathing through you, and you become what you always were, a sacred channel of the universe's infinite breath. This reciprocal breathing becomes a constant prayer, a continuous communion with the creative force of existence. In this state, synchronicities multiply exponentially. The right people appear at perfect moments. Opportunities align in ways that seem impossible. Solutions emerge from nowhere. Resources flow effortlessly. This isn't because you're manipulating reality. It's because you've stopped interfering with reality's natural tendency to support consciousness in its highest expression. You begin to understand that what you once called miracles are simply what happens when consciousness operates from its natural state of coherence. Healing becomes natural. Abundance becomes effortless. Love becomes unconditional. Peace becomes unshakable. Not because you've achieved these states, but because you've stopped blocking them. The ancient masters knew this secret. They understood that the ultimate spiritual practice isn't about becoming enlightened. It's about removing the obstacles to the enlightenment that's already here. And breathing is the master key that unlocks every door, dissolves every barrier, and reveals the infinite potential that has always been your true nature. As you embody this understanding more completely, you become what can be called a reality anchor, someone whose very presence reminds others of their own infinite nature. You don't need to teach or preach or convince anyone of anything. Your coherent field state becomes a silent invitation for others to remember their own truth. This is how consciousness evolves, not through force or effort, but through the magnetic power of authentic embodiment. You become a living demonstration that real transformation happens from the inside out. That consciousness, not circumstance, is the true creative force. That every breath is an opportunity to remember who you really are. Breath brought you home, to who you always were, to what you always knew, to the power that was always yours. The work you're doing isn't just personal transformation, it's planetary transformation. Every moment you choose conscious breathing over unconscious reactivity, you're contributing to the collective awakening of our species. You're helping to birth a new paradigm where consciousness is recognized as the primary creative force in the universe. There's a critical mass effect happening now on our planet. As more people awaken to their true nature as conscious creators, the collective field is reaching what scientists call a phase transition, a point where the entire system shifts to a new organizational pattern. Your individual practice of conscious breathing is part of this larger evolutionary moment. You're not just healing yourself, you're participating in the healing of human consciousness itself. Indigenous wisdom keepers have always known this time would come. Hopi prophecies speak of the great purification when humanity would remember its connection to the living earth. Mayan calendars pointed to this era as the end of one cosmic cycle and the beginning of another. Hindu texts describe this as the transition from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga, from the age of darkness to the age of truth. What all these traditions understood is that this transition wouldn't happen through external force or dramatic events, but through the silent revolution of individual consciousness awakening to its true nature. Every person who learns to breathe consciously becomes a seed of this new paradigm, helping to anchor higher frequencies of possibility into our collective reality. Before you go, leave a word in the comments that captures the energy you're choosing to embody from here forward. This is your energetic signature to the quantum field, a declaration of the frequency you're entering. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel not just to stay connected, but to stay coherent with this understanding. The more of us who embody this truth, the more the world reflects this reality. Consider making this practice part of your daily rhythm. Perhaps watching this video each morning to anchor this frequency as you begin your day. Or share this with someone who's ready for this understanding. When you share these quantum consciousness concepts, you create an energetic ripple effect that expands a collective consciousness while reinforcing your own embodiment of these principles. Every share accelerates the manifestation of a more conscious world. Now, as you leave this space, take this rhythm with you. Let your breathing be your compass. Let stillness be your throne. Let consciousness walk with you in every word, every choice, every pause. So breathe, not to survive, but to remember. Not to escape, but to embody. Not to control, but to create. Breath is the key. You are the door. Walk through. Now that you understand how breathing creates your electromagnetic field, you're ready to discover what the quantum field truly responds to. There's a specific element that determines whether your intentions manifest or dissolve. And understanding this changes everything about how you approach creation itself. Every breath you take from now on carries the potential for transformation. You're no longer a passive observer of your life, but an active participant in creating your reality. The universe is breathing through you, and you're breathing back to the universe in an eternal dance of conscious creation. Remember, you don't need to be perfect in this practice. You just need to be conscious. Every moment of breathing awareness is a step toward your true nature as a creator of reality. Every pause between breaths is an opportunity to touch the infinite. Every exhale is a chance to release what no longer serves you. Every inhale is an invitation to receive life in its fullness. You now possess the keys to access states of consciousness that most people never experience. Use them with wisdom. Use them with love. Use them in service not just of your own evolution, but of the evolution of all consciousness. The world needs people like you, as people who understand that real change begins from within, that true peace is cultivated in the silence between thoughts, and that authentic power emerges from deep stillness. You're part of a new wave of consciousness that's transforming our planet from the inside out. Breathe consciously. Live consciously. Love consciously. And watch how the universe conspires to support your awakening journey. Breath brought you this far. Now let it take you home to the truth of who you really are. You're not just a human being having a spiritual experience. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. And now you know how to use your breathing to remember this in every moment. The universe is waiting to see what you're going to create. Breathe, and let the magic begin.